Hello EFD squad and welcome back to Transfer Review, where Pat and I put silly season underneath the bloody microscope. Now, as you all know, transfer window slammed shut Friday the 31st across Europe. Germany have until 5 p.m. to get as many signings in as possible. France and Spain a little bit longer, 11 p.m. is where the line is drawn there. Segues quite nicely into our first topic, does Spain, because the biggest transfer of this week has undoubtedly been Mariano Diaz, who returns to Real Madrid after being given the boot last year, sent off to Lyon for 8 million, but they had a buyback clause. How much was that? And do you think this is good business? It was confirmed last night.
They paid 20 million euros to bring him back. That was inserted in his contract when he moved to Lyon. And that's probably pretty good value given that he scored 21 goals last season for the club. And also Sevilla had hammered out a deal with Lyon worth 32 million euros for the Dominican Republic international. So they're getting him at a discount on market rate. And I guess you do need a backup number 9. I think after Benzema, Mayoral is probably their next out-and-out number 9. So I guess you need some depth, which they have a little bit more in the wide areas. However, Mariano Diaz is not as good as Morata was when he came back, nor is he as young. I think he's 25 now. He's not as, he's not as versatile as some of the other players in that squad, particularly Asensio. And frankly, I think that he'll probably be there for a year or so before moving on somewhere else. I think during which time his value will probably drop a little bit. It seems like a very short-term move, and I don't really understand it, given that Real Madrid presumably have a ton of money knocking around from the Cristiano Ronaldo sale. They could have bought him back and actually sold him on to Sevilla and got some money for Mariano Diaz as well. I just don't really know what they're doing with their money this summer. It all just feels like they're waiting for something to come up. They're waiting for Neymar to become available, and maybe he will, but somehow we're talking about this on the Thursday before the window shuts. I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, it's a little bit kick scramble, isn't it? And I think there are certain parallels with Morata, which have inevitably been touched upon. But you're right, he's 25. Morata came back at a little bit of a younger age and had a higher ceiling. I think it was widely acknowledged that big clubs were in for him, even when he was at Juventus or reported to be securing a permanent move there. So I can't see Mariano being much of a cash cow for Real Madrid. I think what the idea is to maybe tie them over until January, when hopefully their bigger targets are closer to running down their contract, or maybe, because they wanted Hazard, didn't they? They wanted Hazard, but no doubt one of Sarri's stipulations was, listen, if I'm going to come into this club, I need my Dries Mertens, I need my Lorenzo Insigne all rolled into one. And I think the comparison you actually made with Mayoral is interesting, because Mayoral is pretty much where Diaz was at before Diaz left. So this is going to hamper his growth, I imagine. Yeah, and he was actually more prolific in the youth setup than Diaz.
Really?
Diaz kind of got there incrementally and then surprised people when he broke into the first team in cup competitions, but barely got any league minutes. So bringing him back, decent backup for Benzema. But if Real Madrid play a front two, which it looks like they might, despite Lopetegui playing a 4-3-3 throughout the Spanish pyramid, right? Then Bale is the indispensable player.
Yes.
Benzema is deputising in terms of goals. You hope he gets 15 league goals. And Mariano Diaz doesn't see a lot of action. So if we're talking personal growth, Sevilla would have been the better option for him. Presumably, he could have turned down Real Madrid. I don't know how much money they're offering him.
Or just staying at Lyon. He'd have got regular Champions League football. He's playing with players who he obviously has a good relationship with. For some reason, it doesn't seem like anybody's in for Fekir or Memphis Depay.
He's
or
a lesser of the three as
anymore.
well, right?
And that midfield, you look at Lyon and you see a side that's on its way up. You look at Real Madrid and I think, maybe Lopetegui has had a conversation with him and said, this is our plan for the future, and that has kind of assuaged his concerns. But if I were thinking about making that move from a side where the players are getting better, they're getting older, and they're all developing together, to a side who are a little bit of a mess after the departure of their superstar, then I'd want to have a good reason to do it.
Great use of the word assuaged, by the way.
Thank you. Anyway, I think some dominoes are going to fall, aren't they?
They are. And unfortunately, it's at my club. One of the few times Celtic hasn't actually been shoehorned in by myself, because subsequently Lyon are looking to pick up Moussa Dembele from Celtic to the tune of 20 to 25 million euros, that is.
It's not bad.
Which I think is a bargain. It's actually less than West Ham offered for him last season or in January?
I think it was last season.
One of them. They actually offered 30 to 35
Brighton tried to get him,
million
didn't
pounds. Brighton came in with a much lesser bid, and I believe we rejected around 18 for him there.
Okay.
I can see why clubs are a little bit more cautious of going in for him.
Okay.
To the tune of big money, because he has had recurrent hamstring injuries that have kept him out of the side. Odsonne Edouard has subsequently become our point man. He's become our go-to, the reliable centre forward, and we picked him up for 8 million. And he's kind of overtaken Moussa Dembele in that period. Despite Moussa Dembele still having an incredible record at Celtic, he contributes to a goal every 89 minutes. That's a goal or an assist. And he got 3 goals in the Champions League in his maiden campaign. So for all of you guys who are no doubt already typing, okay, contributing to a goal in Scotland every 89 minutes is no mean feat. I mean, tell that to a bunch of strikers who failed to make an impression in Europe as well. This guy's got a very, very high ceiling, Moussa Dembele, if he can stay injury-free. He's one of France's under-21's most consistent performers. Takes free kicks for them. Think of the pool of talent in that under-21 side, and he is the fulcrum of that side. He's the Don. So he definitely has that pedigree, like I was saying. Now, from a Celtic perspective, I would be devastated, because while it makes sense to kind of cash in on him now in terms of our model, which dictates we do this every 2 years, it's also going to hinder our progress in the Europa League. We've struggled without him in the qualifiers, for example. We're a much better side against AEK Athens away from home as soon as him and Sinclair came on. But that kind of fiscal responsibility doesn't translate into fun for the fans, does it? Which is kind of where I get a little bit annoyed at people on Twitter who say it makes sense to sell him now. We're not going to go out and buy a Moussa Dembele. He's an anomaly. He's a 1 in every 6 striker that we've procured. I kind of think as well, and I don't know if this is just because it's my bias, Pato, that he's a bit of an upgrade on Mariano Diaz, despite him getting 21 goals last campaign. Yeah,
it feels like Lyon are coming out of this deal having a better striker than Real Madrid, which doesn't really seem like it's the way it should work. Like, obviously, injuries have to be taken into account, but he's 22 years old and he's probably already a similar level of player. He's going to develop with that side, and you imagine he shouldn't find it too hard to integrate because he's presumably played with some of them at youth level, we'd assume. I think he's probably more of a physical weapon as well than Diaz. I think he's faster than him and probably a bit more skillful. Although Diaz is a decent all-rounder, I don't want to be too down on him. To me, this seems like Lyon are doing what Lyon do and just gradually getting better. If they can keep that pool of players together, then they could actually have a really exciting season either this year or the year after. But I don't know. For Real Madrid, not amazing. For Celtic, pretty sad.
Yeah, I mean, Lyon's a pretty tasty kind of prospect, I suppose, if you're a young French player.
Yeah, definitely.
Got a really strong French core, haven't they? Good luck to Lyon and good luck to Moussa Dembele, because he will leave and I will have to have a cry. Probably bleep that last bit.
Next up, we have a big move for PSG, for Juan Bernat, who you may have forgotten was actually at Bayern Munich. I think he's been there 3 or 4 seasons now. Pep Guardiola signing. Apparently PSG want him to solve their left-back problems.
How is he still only 25? And is he an upgrade on Kazawa? But let's
because
get into that
they
later.
put him in a freezer when we're not watching him, which is all the time. He never
cryogenically
plays.
frozen.
Who is he?
I'm
Did you
not
pick
sure.
him out of a crowd?
I always get confused with Rafinha and Juan Bernat.
Yeah.
Both diminutive, both small, darting about. Anyway, reports from RMC are saying that there will be a last-minute deal for Bayern Munich's Juan Bernat, who could solve, like you said, PSG's long-term left-back issues. Thomas Tuchel came into the club. He said, my fullbacks aren't good enough. He's made good on his promise by playing youngsters there early in the season. Meunier, I thought he would eventually worm his way in. Kind of looks to be a little bit discarded.
He's quite,
maybe someone can pick him up.
He's quite big and not mobile, is he?
Yeah.
Whereas that's what you like in a kind of Tuchel fullback.
Bloody good in that right wing-back role for Belgium at the World Cup.
Yeah, he's a good player.
I think
he's a bit Marcus Alonso-y.
He has more of a future there than Kazawa, I would suggest.
Yeah, which is weird because I think Kazawa has a higher ceiling.
Interesting.
But anyway, I mean, like, why? It seems like Bayern have quietly been making quite a bit of profit in this transfer window.
I mean, that's my next point. The Bavarian club continue to sort of keep that squad clear out going, that momentum going, don't they? Just doing what Bayern do, hoovering up domestic talent. They've sold Sebastian Rudy for 16 million to Schalke after procuring him for free. Schalke came second. They don't care. They're selling their talent to technically their biggest rival, such is the gap in the Bundesliga. But I was saying to Pato off screen, Celtic sell a player for 16 million euros. That's sort of once in a lifetime. Hopefully that won't be, the trend moving forward. But Bayern do this 2 or 3 times a window, and this is why they're the best run club in Europe, maybe along with Juventus at the moment. But yeah, Sky in Germany are also reporting that Bernat will sign a 3-year contract with the Parisians for 15 million euros, which is a fair price for him.
Seems about right.
Like I said, still 25, joined Bayern in 2014 for 8, so they've still doubled their profit.
Yeah.
Barely played, but PSG have the cash, don't they? Signing from Valencia, he struggled to get a game, like I said. In 17-18 in the Bundesliga, he made 11 appearances, and he also secured 1 in the Champions League. So not a lot of first-team action, and at his age, you can imagine him seeing those prodigious young talents at left back and thinking, all right, they might be good, but I'm definitely going to be top dog there. I'm going to secure some minutes at this vital stage in my career.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that he will end up being, a key player for Tuchel. We don't really know. But to be honest with you, Kurzawa's output has always been very good, and it was really good at Monaco before he went to PSG. So I'm not really sure what it is that Tuchel wants that he thinks he's going to get from Bernat that he wouldn't get from Kurzawa. The other players he's looked at are much more established, but the profile seems to be absolutely all over the place. Felipe Luis doesn't really have the attacking output he used to.
Not Tuchel at all.
Still a fantastic defender, but you kind of wonder, unless you have a really attacking right back that you want to play, it doesn't really make much sense to have Luis. He's also looked at Danny Rose. Danny Rose is a very good all-rounder. He's, again, not a huge creative force. And I don't know, I'm just not really sure what his defensive setup is meant to be. If he wants it to be a short-term run at the Champions League, then I suppose it makes sense to go and get somebody in who's going to be depth, who's 25 years old, who's played for a top side in both League and Champions League, even if that experience has been limited. He's played under Pep Guardiola, so he knows how to play in a pressing side. There are advantages to Bernat, but fundamentally, will he improve PSG's team in the long term? I don't think he will, and I'm not sure that PSG should be thinking just about can we win the Champions League this season. I think they can afford to get a player who's both good now and will be good for them in years to come.
Maybe we need to do a little bit of scouting on their fullbacks then. Maybe he actually does rate them, but that's just coming in, like you said, has a little bit of experience to compete on multiple fronts. Because in the summer, in this window, very clearly his priority has been centre-back, hasn't it? He signed Kerrer from Schalke for somewhere in the mid-30s, right? And he also has Kimpembe, they've got Thiago Silva, Marquinhos. So, like you've said, Tuchel, high-risk side, a lot of attacking output, but he knows he's got that solidity. If he wants to play a back 3, some brilliant options there. Yeah, it is a little bit confusing. Maybe we'll do a scout report on Tuchel's fullbacks, because I'm puzzled. But can you let us know any more information about them? Stick it in the comments below, League and fans. Moving on to people we think have had good/bad windows across Europe. A little sprinkle of info before we go.
Next up, we have the worst and best transfer windows from around Europe. Hamill, in a surprise twist, you're going to take the worst ones. Go ahead.
I am. I'm alleviating you of that negative energy.
Come on, mate.
Went to the gym this morning, though, didn't you?
Yep.
Pumped. Can always tell you got a spring in your step.
Why are you just talking?
Until the next day when you can't get up the stairs.
What are you talking about?
Anyway, Sporting Lisbon. So they're now without a domestic title in 16 years. There's been a mass exodus. 9 players have terminated their contracts after fans broke into the training ground. We're not going to cover that. We covered that at Mundial. We covered that in Continental Club. It's a boring story by now. However, still relevant. Total of 21 players have departed to the tune of 31 million euros. And you consider some of the talent that has left that club. Gelson Martins, Rui Patricio. I think they've just secured Bruno Fernandes on a new contract, which is positive. You're a big fan of his. And Bas Dost might stay, might go. Top goal scorer last season. I think maybe still in flux unless he signed a new contract. Anyway, the total market value of those players was 122 million euros. Oof. So just terrible, terrible business after spending years kind of regaining ground on Benfica and Porto. They're back to square one. Incoming signings though, Nani and Rafinha. Nice have also stuck them in there because of their terrible season last season, and they have subsequently had a poor start, so have not recruited well after losing Seri for 35 million euros and 25-year-old Alisson Player for 25. Mario Balotelli's contract situation looks to be resolved, and they need to get him back in the side as soon as possible because they are really struggling for goals. They have lost to the likes of Cayenne at the start of this season and Gangon, I believe.
Nice.
So, or someone else who's put a run of 3 victories together, who's as unlikely as Gangomp that I can't think of right now. And to finish it off, because 3 is the magic number, Napoli. I mean, they've lost Sarri, they've lost Jorginho, and their rivals had really, really good windows. So while they've signed the likes of Ruiz from Spain and Verdi from Italy, Ruiz I think has a high ceiling, Verdi's output was great in Serie A last campaign, you can't deny now their title credentials have taken a severe dent. It looks like Juve might run away with this, especially after they've had to come behind Lazio and AC Milan at the start of the season. I believe 2 goals against AC Milan, eventually winning 3-2. That'll obviously give their fans some confidence in terms of the team's mentality, but these are teams that were blowing away last campaign. I actually think Inter Milan have caught up with them a lot this season. Lazio, very stable, kept hold of Milinkovic-Savic. Who else is that? AC, still spunking money at the wall, aren't they? So, Serie A, probably going to be not as eventful as last campaign, which is a shame because it gave me a right bloody rock on at the end. I
don't know about that. I think Inter, I'd actually put Inter in one of the best windows. I think Inter, though I think that they massively overpaid for Radia Nainggolan, I certainly wouldn't have done that. They kept hold of Icardi. They've added some striker depth with Lautaro Martinez coming in from the Argentinian league.
Yeah.
They brought in Vasalco for almost nothing, De Vrij on a free, Asamoah on a free. This is good depth. And when you look at that midfield, while they don't have a great amount of talent in the wide areas, I would have liked to see them go for someone like Malcolm. I really like the guys who they've brought in all around the park. I think they've really improved.
Malcolm would have been perfect. He took the words out of my mouth because they had to play Asamoah wide left in a game in which they lost 1-0. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, they lost the opening game of the season.
But yeah, that wide left, that's the place that is screaming out, I need a dangerous wide.
I think, but Malcolm wants to play on the right, and that's where Candreva is, who's your really only creator.
Perisic can be out there as well, can't he?
Yeah, I don't know. Staying in Italy though, I think Juve, people would expect us to put them in there. I'm not as wild as other people are, but obviously they've got in Cristiano Ronaldo, and that is going to be better than having Higuain, certainly. They made some money on Higuain, brought back Bonucci. I know that you have question marks over that because of Caldara going the opposite way, but there are also some decent moves in here. Pjanic was linked with a move away, he's stayed. Emre Can coming on a free. Douglas Costa's move made permanent, Dybala's stayed. And also, I think with Juve, you could argue that they've made a broader point, which is we are no longer going to lose our best players to bigger clubs. We are now one of the bigger clubs who will take your best player.
Their stature has been the biggest winner.
Yeah, and Allegri, of course, stayed as well, linked with a move away. And lastly, to take a slight detour, we go over to Fulham. They've obviously spent £100 million this summer. That's the largest output of any promoted club in Premier League history, as everyone insists on saying every time Fulham come up. But
they spent it well.
Well, this is the thing. We used to see clubs like QPR come up, spend a bunch of money on journeymen and just waste it. Whereas actually, I think that when you look at Wolves, when you look at Fulham, and certainly when you look at clubs like Brighton, they've spent money really well over the last couple of seasons. So Fulham have brought in Seri, who's obviously going to be a great creator, Mitrovic, who was fantastic for them last season, some striker depth with Schürrle and Vietto, who had a fantastic debut against Burnley.
2 assists, yeah.
Alfie Mawson, who I actually think is a really promising young centre-back, Callum Chambers on loan, and Tim Fosu-Mensah. That's not going to be a permanent deal, but regardless, Fosu-Mensah is going to be good for them.
What do you
and who knows, maybe they could buy him on a
Jukanovic playing him at right back.
He was fantastic at right back. Yeah, well, he's definitely got the physical gifts for it, and I don't know where he'll end up eventually. I can't claim to have watched him at youth level, and it feels like these kind of players always get shifted around all over the place. You know, like Ainsley Maitland-Niles playing fullback for Arsenal. Yeah. He's a central midfielder, but Jukanovic seems to know what he's doing and have a plan, and that's all you want in a manager when you're that young a player, I think.
And it's quite a compliment of Jukanovic, I suppose, that such a young, prodigious talent has been entrusted with him to play the right style of football as well. Because, I mean, look at Man United's defence at the moment. Is he going to be any worse than Valencia currently?
Yeah,
I imagine his output from right back might be better. Valencia, opening couple of games, hasn't been convincing. I think he was injured the first one actually, so maybe a little bit unfair. I really like Fosu-Mensah. Shades of Jason Denayer, going out on loan multiple times, doing great wherever he goes, but still not being able to force his inclusion into his parent club's starting 11. So I really hope that he gets a permanent transfer after this stint at Fulham. Don't know why I just went off on a little rant about Fosu-Mensah there. I love him, so probably got the shot. So transfer review might be back next week if some big movers and shakers happen, but that is pretty much the transfer window slammed shut, isn't it? Pato, it's been emotional. I'll see you again. I mean, straight after this for Sunday Vibes, but
sure,
in the winter window. In these chairs.
Like Paul Walker.
Are these favourite
You'll
chairs?
see me again. No, these chairs are
Yeah, they are.
I
Shocking.
hate these chairs.
New winners and losers chairs, goat.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I can see them over there. I want to say.
Look at them, absolute pieces.
But anyway, stick around on Football Daily. Actually, no, head over to Football Daily, this year of Football Daily, and watch the Football Social this weekend, where we'll be covering all the 3 o'clock kickoffs. It's going to be the two of us. It's going to be Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. It's going to be Chelsea Rory. It's going to be Dave Jackson. It's going to be the dream team. So make sure you tune in for that.